Good morning, Oceanside and 180 kids. So excited to be sharing the story with you this morning. Today is a big day because we're all so familiar with a picture of Jesus hanging on a cross. Now that's probably one of the most obvious pictures, one of the most well-known pictures all over the world is Jesus hanging on a cross. So our story is going to cover both the death of Jesus and the resurrection of Jesus this morning. So we begin. And it says this, it doesn't start so well. It says, "So you're the king, are you?" The Roman soldiers jeered. "Then you'll need a crown and a robe." And they gave Jesus a crown made out of thorns and put a purple robe on him and pretended to bow down to him. "Your Majesty," they said. Then they whipped him and spat on him, and they didn't understand that this was in fact the Prince of Life, the King of heaven and earth, who had come to rescue them. And the soldiers made a sign that said, "Our King," and nailed it to a wooden cross. And they walked up a hill outside the city, and Jesus carried the cross on his back. Jesus had never done anything wrong, but they were going to kill him the way they killed criminals. They nailed Jesus to the cross. "Father, forgive them," Jesus grasped. They didn't understand what they were doing. "You say you've come to rescue us," people shouted, "but you can't even rescue yourself." But they were wrong. Jesus could have rescued himself. Jesus could have just climbed down. Actually, he could have just said a word and made it all stop. Like when he healed that little girl? Like when he stilled the storm or fed the 5,000 people. But Jesus stayed. You see, it wasn't the nails that were keeping him on that cross, but actually, it was love. "Papa," Jesus cried, "where are you? Don't leave me." And for the first time and the last, when he spoke, nothing happened. Even though it was midday, a dreadful darkness covered the face of the world. The sun could not shine. The earth trembled and quaked. The great mountains shook. Rocks split in two until it seemed that the whole world would break. The full force of the storm of God's fierce anger at sin was coming down. But instead of coming on his people or the world, it was coming on Jesus. And then Jesus shouts with a loud voice, "It is finished." And it was. Jesus had done it. He had rescued the whole world. Some of Jesus' friends gently carried Jesus. They laid him in a tomb carved out of rock. How could Jesus die? What had gone wrong? What did it mean? They didn't know anything anymore. And just so that the soldiers were sure, they rolled a big stone in front of the tomb. This story is not supposed to end like this. But whoever said it was the end? Just before sunrise on the third day, God sent an earthquake and an angel from heaven. When the guards saw the angel, they fell down with fright, and the angel rolled the huge stone away, sat on top of it, and waited. At the glimmer of dawn, Mary Magdalene and other women headed to the tomb to wash Jesus' body. Upon arriving at the tomb, they noticed something odd. It was wide open. They peered through the opening into the dark tomb, but wait, the body of Jesus was gone. And something else, a shining man was there, with clothes made from lightning. "Don't be scared," the angel said, but they were freaked out. The angel said to them, What are you doing here? This is a tomb, and tombs are for dead people." The woman couldn't speak. "You mean Jesus isn't dead anymore? He's alive again?" And their hearts leapt, and the angel laughed with them with such gladness. And it was almost as if they had woken from a nightmare. The other women rushed home, but Mary stayed behind. How could this be true? Jesus was definitely dead. How could he be alive again? And just then Mary heard someone else in the garden. Perhaps it's the gardener, she thought. He'll know where Jesus' body is. I don't know where Jesus is, said Mary urgently. I can't find him. But it was all right. Jesus knew where she was, and he had found her. Mary! Only one person said her name like that. She could hear her heart thumping. She turned around. She could just make out a figure. She shaded her eyes to see and thought she was dreaming. But she wasn't dreaming. She was seeing. And she was seeing Jesus. Mary fell to the ground. Sudden tears filled her eyes and great sobs shook her whole body. And all she wanted in that moment was to cling to Jesus and never let him go. You'll be able to hold me later on, Mary, Jesus said gently, and always be close to me. But now go and tell all the others that I am alive. Mary ran all the way to the city. She didn't even feel like her feet were touching the ground. That's how fast she was running. The sun seemed to be dancing. Everything was seeming so right. And it seemed to her that morning as she ran, almost as if the whole world had been made anew. Was God really making everything sad come untrue? Was he making even death come untrue? She couldn't wait to tell Jesus' friends. They wouldn't believe it. She laughed. And she was right, of course. Because while the story and picture of Jesus on a cross is probably one of the most well-known things, is we know that Jesus is no longer on that cross. He has the marks to prove it in his hands and his side and his feet, but we know that Jesus is in fact alive again. I am so excited to be serving a living Savior, a living Redeemer in Jesus Christ alongside you.